At it again, and in a recent video earlier, well, like last week, I think actually, I talked about wanting to check out some debates, right? And who better to check out in a debate than the great, the amazing Thomas Sowell? Yeah, we got a debate with Thomas Sowell, I guess, versus a liberal. So I'm sure this is going to be a good one. Grab a drink, a snack of your choice, kick back and relax, and let's dive in.
Now, why would a group of liberal intellectuals or politicians or media stars or whatever, why would they sit around and decide to dismember or dilute the criminal justice system if they thought in advance that it would raise the amount of criminality?
Oh, they didn't think that. But the point is,
they just thought wrongly that it would help.
Yes, but it would also give them an enormously larger role than they had before. I mean, a judge who just sits there and applies the laws that have been passed by the legislature has a very minor role. But if he takes the expansive judicial activist role, then of course he's on the leading edge, and he can look for the hosannas and all the rest of it from the sideline.
How does this play out in the realm of something else you have written about, which is affirmative action?
Exactly.
How does that process? What's the 1, 2, 3, 4 on that?
I haven't worked it out like that, but certainly there is no interest whatever in finding out empirically whether things have been made better or worse for minorities as a result of this program. And in fact, if you bring them up evidence, they'll say, but things would have been even worse had we not done this. Similarly with the war on poverty, you can show how dependency on government was going down, poverty was going down before this program was ever put in. And within a few years, dependence on government was going up, and after a few more years, the absolute number of people in poverty was going up.
Yeah, I read that in your book, but the absolute number of poverty is not the data. The relevant data would be the rate of poverty. And the rate of poverty, in fact, in the 1970s, I worked for President Johnson, so we have to establish there. So I mean, the line we took was that during the 1960s, during the Kennedy-Johnson administration, poverty did in fact go down sharply. And then the rate since then, not the absolute number because the country has grown larger, the rate has sort of bounced around at about flat, somewhere between 12 and 15%.
Yes, but don't forget, this was sold to the country not on the grounds that if you transferred money from A to B, that B would have more money. That was not the argument. The argument was that dependency would be reduced, that you would, quote, invest in people, as Bill Clinton is now saying, now that people have forgotten what was said in the 60s. This will then, you give them job training and all those kinds of things, parenting skills, the whole bit. And this will then be an investment that will pay off in the future because there'll be fewer people dependent upon the government than there were before. And I go through a great number of people from John F. Kennedy to Lyndon Johnson, the New York Times, again, all the usual suspects, said all these things.
Lyndon Johnson was not a usual suspect, Tom.
Well, he was the primary suspect. All right. But the fact is that was never tested. And when there were all these wonderful retrospectives held down in Texas and other places about this, the first order of business is to evade the criterion that they themselves set up when they set this out. And so no matter what happens, if it's a failure by the original criterion, then we just find another criterion by which it will be a success.
Well, let's just examine that for a minute. I have a friend of mine from those old White House days was listening to, again, Gingrich shortly after we had this great Republican Revolution in 1994. Great meaning huge, not necessarily wonderful. We shall see about that. And he kept hearing Newt Gingrich use the word opportunity. This conservative opportunity society, we have to provide opportunity. And I was talking to him, he said, you know, Gingrich uses that word opportunity almost as much as Johnson did, which is what you're saying, that was the rhetoric. It was called the OEO, was the Office of Economic Opportunity.
Yes.
That's what it was. Now, so if liberals were talking about opportunity, and now conservatives are talking about opportunity, and I'm sure you're for opportunity.
All God's children got opportunity.
All God's children got opportunity. So what is your problem that liberals said we ought to create programs for opportunity? And in point of fact, I mean, just to, I won't say play devil's advocate, because I mean, a lot of the things that came out of the Great Society, I mean, building all those junior colleges and community colleges.
Oh, I would disagree entirely. I think that was a tragedy of the first magnitude.
That was a tragedy.
Yes.
Why is that a tragedy?
You have millions of people who have absolutely no desire for an education, using up billions of dollars of the taxpayers' money, and not only not getting an education themselves, making it more difficult to give an education to those people who came to college with an idea of getting one.
Now, you say they have no desire for an education. I mean, nobody is herding them into these community colleges and into the junior colleges and into the state university. I mean, they have a desire, obviously.
No, they do not, obviously, because lots of things go on in those places that are not education. I mean, where else can you find so many young people of the same age and opposite sex in one place? A nice, convenient place to be. But anyone who is taught in a lot of these places, this ferocious desire for education as such is not terribly visible. And I taught at places where we've gotten, the upper 10, 15% of students. I mean, UCLA and whatnot. Neither I nor my colleagues found this great desire for education as such. They wanted to be in ivy-covered buildings for 4 years in order to get more money when they graduate and have a good time while they're there.
Bang. They wanted to be in them ivy-covered buildings to make that moolah. And hey, listen, have a little bit of partying going on, some drinks, clap some cheeks. We know. Oh man, let's continue on.
So you think the great American ideal, which has really been shared by both parties and both ideologies over recent decades, to allow more people to get into higher education, that is a bankrupt idea?
Oh, to allow is one thing, but to subsidize people at enormous cost, with no real sign that this is producing what we intend to produce.
When you say subsidized, I mean, you talk about a junior college, a community college. I guess that's subsidized. It's below cost tuition, but it does allow kids who do not have the money to go to Amherst or wherever to start a college education. I mean,
people did that before the Great Society. I did it before the Great Society. My whole generation did it before the Great Society.
You are saying that the great humanitarian political impulses of the 1960s have been almost without exception bad.
Well, there have been some good ones, but I'm saying that the assumption that on the education front, I mean, I would defy you to find a large number of people who've actually taught these students who really think that they're out there thirsting for knowledge.
Well, if you suppose they are thirsting for a better job, and we've set up a society where you have to be credentialed with a certain amount of college, so aren't they able to get a better job?
No,
because
this is the fallacy of composition. If one person stands up in the stadium, he sees the game better. But if they all stand up, they don't all see the game better. As long as
tell them again,
fallacy
Thomas.
Of composition. If one person stands up in the stadium, he sees the game better. But if they all stand up, they don't all see the game better. As long as if you have a degree and the other guy doesn't, then you get ahead of him in the employment line. But we're not going to all get ahead of each other in the employment line by all getting degrees.
So this whole idea
Great point.
that I guess, again, both liberals and conservatives are saying is that at this particular moment, 1995, we have to get more people into the education system because that's the way to compete. And we look at the data and we see that the people with more education are earning more money than ever before relative to the people with less education. That's all a fallacy of everybody standing up in the stadium.
People who fly on the Concorde, kids who've flown on the Concorde undoubtedly will make more money than kids who've only gone on buses. That does not mean if we put a lot of people on the Concorde, we're going to raise the national income.
But we would increase the revenues of the Concorde.
Yes, and which they desperately need, of course,
right.
But that's another story.
All right, now, and just to review the bidding, you date the full-blown nature of this situation sort of in the 1960s. Is that right?
Yes.
I mean, everyone on the conservative side Genesis is mid-1960s. That's when the world started. I mean, and I'm not arguing with that.
Well, not necessarily. I would say the fall in the garden.
Right. Okay. All right. Now, since the 1960s.
By the way, forgive me if I'm sitting here kind of silent. I'm just taking it all in. I'm soaking it in. I'm enjoying watching this back and forth. So that's why I haven't been saying a whole lot, and I've just been kind of silent. But anyway, let's continue.
The United States of America has won the Cold War. While a lot of people, including mostly conservatives, were saying, "Oh, America's lost its nerve," and because we're
I don't think that's mostly conservatives.
Well, I recall an issue of the public interest in the mid-1970s saying, "Has America lost its nerve?" A whole bunch of conservatives saying, "Oh my God, it's terrible."
Well, this is Jimmy Carter's era.
Well, maybe that's right. Since this terrible event 30 years ago, when the 60s dropped upon us, we've won the Cold War. We've continued to grow in affluence, in professional skills. We have absorbed about 20 million immigrants. We are the wealthiest, freest country in the history of the world. You would agree with all of that, roughly.
Well, I disagree entirely with your base period.
It's your base period.
None of these
you
things
established in 1960s.
No. I'm saying all those things that you talk about began long before the 1960s. They faltered to a great extent under Jimmy Carter. They were resumed with renewed vigor in the 1980s under an entirely different kind of vision. But I'm talking about the social decline of the country, because the social decline is all the more striking because here is a country that is prosperous. You can't blame the crime rate on the fact that there's more poverty, there's less poverty, there's more affluence. It's not due to foreigners because, as you say, we've won the Cold War. All the normal things that you might blame all this on aren't there. It's not because of diseases, because science has conquered more diseases. It's all because of self-inflicted wounds. And I'm saying these are the people who inflicted those wounds, and this is why we shouldn't listen to them anymore.
That's a great point. We kind of hurt ourselves by self-inflicted wounds, right? And obviously we see it going on now. We're hurting ourselves. The people who are in charge currently are hurting us. It's not because of outside forces. We don't have boots on the ground here in the U.S. It's self-inflicted. These are the folks we shouldn't listen to. These are the folks we shouldn't follow. Love it, love it, love it. Thomas Sowell dropping facts on us.
The nature of those wounds.
Crime.
No.
The disintegration of the family. The disintegration of the educational system. And it's not going to matter. We'll be like the man who gained the whole world and lost his soul.
Is there a common root to all of those problems, other than you heard them from the anointed class? I mean, is there something? Is it big,
yes,
is it big government? Is it big government? Is that what?
No. It's the notion that ordinary people cannot be trusted to make the decisions that they've been making, but these must be preempted either by judges in the case of crime, by the schools taking over the indoctrination of other people's children behind their back and against their protests.
Wow. Which goes to show this whole indoctrination thing has been going on for quite some time, which is also really, really scary. But anyway.
In the case of crime, by the schools taking over the indoctrination of other people's children behind their back and against their protests, or what was the other one? The family, taking money from the taxpayers and subsidizing behavior, as well as encouraging it and legitimizing behavior that has turned out to be enormously self-destructive, undermining the family in 1,000 different ways.
Tom, you write in your new book, The Vision of the Anointed, available at all bookstores, about the Teflon prophets.
Yes.
What is?
Well, I think my favorite is Paul Ehrlich, because he's been so consistently wrong on so many things. One, predicting mass starvation, I think was the 70s or the 80s, but predicting that we're running out of, running low on resources. And Julian Simon made this famous bet with him. He would offer to bet anybody $1,000 that they could name a set of resources and name a period of time. And at the end of that period of time, those resources would not be more expensive, as they would be if they were really running low, but would be either stationary or falling in real terms. And Ehrlich rushed in with his list of 10 resources, and he decided we'd come back at the end of 10 years. At the end of 10 years, not only was the bundle of 10 resources cheaper in real terms than it was before, every single resource he named was cheaper.
Let me raise a final point here. You make this vigorous attack in the vision of the anointed that we should no longer listen to these people. That's sort of the debate. They've been wrong. They don't prove their points. It's hurt us. Who should we listen to?
Thomas Sowell. That's a simple and quick and easy answer. You know, and I've stated this before, like I wish Thomas Sowell was a lot younger, right? Because I think he's like 90 right now, or pushing 90. He's up there. Shout out Thomas Sowell, man. I would love to get an interview in with him, but I wish he was a lot younger because I think someone like Thomas Sowell would be a great leader. I think he'd be a great leader personally. You know, someone who relies on facts and isn't swayed by emotion, isn't swayed by anybody's emotion, right? He looks at things from a clear-headed perspective and says, does this work? Has this worked? And why didn't it work? And what possibly could work? Not, oh, what's going to make people feel good? Or how can I get more votes? You know what I mean? Like, none of the games. It's just, he's a straight shooter. I think like I said, I think he'd be an amazing leader or even vice president. I just would love to see him in the White House for sure.
Their points, it's hurt us. Who should we listen to?
We should listen first and foremost to our own experience. Ooh. You seem to act as if there must be alternative saviors. We should stop looking for saviors.
Okay.
I mean, the society has not existed for thousands of years because it had a succession of saviors. It's existed because it has institutions and processes through which people can realize their own goals.
No, I understand that, but you are attacking people who would like to lead us and tell us how the world works.
No, they don't want to tell us how the world works. They want to take over the decision for us. They don't tell the parents how they ought to teach sex education to their children. They put this material in the schools behind the backs of the parents with instructions not to let the parents see it.
Okay, but
that's the problem.
But we live in a...
We should stop looking for saviors. I mean, the society has not existed for thousands of years because it had a succession of saviors. It's existed because it has institutions and processes through which people can realize their own goals.
No, I understand that, but you are attacking people who would like to lead us and tell us how the world works.
No, they don't want to tell us how the world works. They want to take over the decision for us. They don't tell the parents how they ought to teach sex education to their children. They put this material in the schools behind the backs of the parents with instructions not to let the parents see it.
Okay, but
that's the problem.
But we live in an open and democratic society now. Mr. and Mrs. John Q. Public are listening to this program, I hope, and they're saying, boy, that guy really makes a lot of sense. But basically, it's been a negative proposition. Don't listen to these people. Don't do this. Don't do that.
No. Don't let those people run your life.
Okay, but how do you practically?
I think it's a non-problem, Ben.
No, but how do you?
Non-problem. Those people are adults just like you and me.
Okay,
they have been running their lives for thousands of years. They don't need me to tell them what to do.
Wait a minute, but this is
It's not a question I want to take over from people on the left.
No, but
I want them to continue to make their decisions as they see fit.
Right. But this is a democracy. They have to vote.
Even in a democracy, they can live their lives as they see fit.
Who should they vote for?
Oh, good heavens! They've been voting for whoever they wanted to without my help for 200 years.
But some of these people are voting for the people who are listening to these anointed people. I mean, I give my audience some advice. Tell them what to do.
Last year in 1994, without any help from me whatsoever, they changed who they voted for. So it's a non-problem.
You say without any help to you, but you and your confreres in the conservative movement, I think, have had an influence
but it wasn't because of this book, obviously.
So yeah, wonderful discussion or debate there with Thomas Sowell, the great Thomas Sowell. And I loved when the guy there mentioned that he worked for Johnson. So he had to kind of cover up for some of the crap because that's kind of what they were discussing there. And then when they were talking about a usual suspect, and even I was like, no, Johnson wasn't the usual suspect. Like, he was the suspect. And I think Thomas Sowell was like, he was the primary suspect. But man, you know, I just love sitting and listening to Thomas Sowell, and I just wish, you know, my teachers in schools would introduce students to someone as great as Thomas Sowell. It's just I feel like it's a shame that I not just now, but just this year discovered who the great Thomas Sowell is. And let me tell y'all something. I know I wasn't talking much during that video, but I could literally sit silent and listen to Thomas Sowell speak for hours on end. For hours on end. I mean, y'all let me know if y'all feel the same way. And I mean, there's so much to be learned from this man. But anyway, y'all let me know what you thought about this one in the comment section below. Like, share, comment, and of course, hit that subscribe button before you go. Peace and love. I'm out.